look frazzled, cut my lip shaved, it doesn't matter. But I have an awesome guest here. I'm a big fan of his. I watch his channel a lot. I love his music. I just love what he does. You know, I've been into this guy for a long time, you know, probably a couple of years, but finally I've got him here on my channel. It's the awesome Jason Stallworth. Welcome, my brother.
Dude, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on your show, dude. And thank you for the kind words, man. I am truly humbled, dude.
You're welcome, brother. Like I said, I'm a big fan of yours. You know, I don't talk any crap. Like I said, I watch you as much as I can. And every time I see a video, I go, this guy is like the real deal. You're just, you got great, I don't know what it is, talent. And just the way you come across with your videos, it's like, it just pulls me in, and I find it's very easy and fun to watch your videos. I mean, some of the guys I watch, it's like I'm watching a car commercial. I mean, okay, but you know, like I'm just a fan. So yeah, it's awesome. So obviously you're in the United States of America. I love the States, but just tell me a bit about yourself, you know, a little bit who you are and what you do, and, you know.
Yeah, sure, dude. So yeah, I live in Florida. I am the cool thing is, like, we live in this little town. It's the Tampa Bay area of Florida in the US, but we live in this little town called Seffner, and that happens to be where the band Obituary is from.
Oh,
Yeah, so I feel like quite special living here, you know, my wife and I. But it's a small, quaint little town in the Tampa Bay area, and I'm a native Floridian, so that's kind of
awesome.
something I think there's a little special there. I'm from this beachy town called Pensacola, Florida.
I know it. Yeah, I love Florida myself.
Yeah, it's a cool spot. It's the weather's always good except for the hurricane season, but even then will rain like 10 or 15 minutes and then it stops. So,
I know
but
I've been there a couple of times, and yeah, it rains. It's like, okay, now it's like 95, 100 degrees. I like it.
yeah. Yeah, it's a cool place, and you know, the specific area I'm in, the Tampa Bay, Brandon area, it used to be called the metal capital of the world
Yeah,
many years ago. You know, and me living here, even though, you know, music these days, it's not so much localized, everything's on the internet. So me as a, you know, I'm a solo artist, I'm an independent solo artist, so all my albums, you know, I do hire out certain things like drums. I have a drummer that I work with in Canada, Cameron Fleury. I don't know if you know him or not. An amazing metal drummer, just he's just crazy amazing. But you know, that being said, though, I don't like have a band that I go out and play with and tour with, so it's just me creating music and putting my albums out there. But all that said, though, just living in this area, I really kind of want to bring metal back to our scene in Tampa here, you know.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, myself, like, I know there was a lot of great bands out of Florida. I've got a really bad memory, but you know, I know there's been, I don't know if it's whether it's death metal or thrash or just heavy metal in general,
Yeah.
have come out of there. I thought, you know, I mean, just top of my head, I think Trivium is from there, and you know, there's some other
Yeah.
bands from,
Orlando, yeah.
yeah, from way back in the past. I know, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Like, you know, trying to remember it. It's
Oh,
something
yeah.
called, you know, a guitar or an amp or whatever. Yeah, I know Florida. I mean, I love Florida. I've been there on a few vacations, and I just, no matter what, I just think it's a cool place. And for you to be living in that area, I've heard it's a nice area, and you know, that's just awesome that you know, there's been some great people to come out of there. It just, like you say, it probably gives you lots of inspiration, like you say, trying to bring
It
back
does.
the music.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Just knowing that so many metal bands came out of this area, it really does. It's kind of like you still feel that vibe, you know, of the bands that started here. And I think death metal became really, I don't want to say popular, because our music is not popular, so to speak. We're not mainstream, right? None of it's mainstream, which I think we kind of applaud that. But you know, when the death metal scene was prevalent, I guess in the early '90s maybe, and I think around that same time it was also booming in Sweden as well. So it was known that you had Swedish death metal and then Florida death metal. That was kind of a big thing. It's funny. I just read an article in Guitar World magazine, the one with Jared Dines on the cover. And I picked it up because he's a YouTuber. I'm like, well, I need to get this, you know. And there's an article about Morbid Angel in there, and they talk about specifically the death metal that came from Sweden and from Florida. I'm like, they're mentioning Florida in here. This is pretty cool, you know. So yeah, it's kind of a, I know you feel that underlying vibe here in this area, as you know, as a metal artist, as a metal musician. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know. It's probably because, I mean, Florida is definitely one of my favorite places. I mean, I have a list, you know, Germany, Dublin, Tennessee, but Florida, like I say, I've always admired it, you know, as a vacation place. But like he's talking about these bands, Morbid Angel or whoever it may be, to me, it's like, oh wow, that's just so cool, and you know, it just makes me be a fan of yours and anyone else that's there. It's just like, oh, if I go to Florida, you know, I know so and so Jason's from there, this band and that band, and I think it's a really cool thing because on the one side of the scale, you see Florida theme parks and blah 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 and alligators,
Right.
but that's cool. But then you got, like you say, the music of these bands and like you, and so to me, you know, I think it's awesome. I really do, you know.
Well, thanks, dude. I appreciate. It's really humbling the fact that somebody knows who I am as a metal artist. So, because
Well,
I'm a small guy, I'm a small independent. You know, I'm not on a label or anything like that. And not to say I wouldn't take a deal for a label. I mean, sure, I've considered, but
be
you know,
careful.
I'm just, yeah. I've always heard be very careful, but I have,
On my
I've learned to,
stories.
I've learned to market my music though, even as an independent metal artist. You know, I've learned to market my music through Facebook and, you know, run ads here and there. And I'm not a pushy guy. It's not like, hey, I have the best metal music. Come listen to me. Look at me. One of the things I try hard to do, because when it's really more than your music, you know, it's more than just being a good guitar player or a musician. It's also developing your own brand as a person, as a personality. And one of the things I really strive to do is, you know, not make it all about Jason Stallworth, but make it more about, you know, what value can I give to people out of my music. And one of them is being cool music, of course. But, you know, I also have things like the YouTube channel that you spoke of, that, you know, I really try to give people something that they can take away, that they can go, they can watch the video and they can go implement that. It's like, you know what? I just became a better guitar player from this thing that, you know, that Jason showed me or whatever. It could be just a little bitty piece of the video that, you know, so I really strive to do that. And even on social media, I've kind of branched off. I still put music out there always. That's, you know, first and foremost, but I'll give some like encouraging words to people and a little bit of motivation and inspiration. Cause you know, I truly believe that if we do that, if we spread that positivity, you know, to others and really help others achieve their goals, that just makes the world a better place. So it goes, you know, what I'm doing, because I know you had asked, you know, well, what is Jason about? That's kind of it, you know, it's the music, but that's kind of, you know, the overlying message is just really kind of helping other people do better and pursue their dreams as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, I kind of got that from your channel, and you know, that's, you know, nice that you share that and bring that. I mean, I agree with 110%. I mean, I probably need to do more of that myself, but it's like, that's why I contacted you and became a fan, is because sometimes I have a hard time expressing the words, what you're
Yeah.
thinking. You know what I mean? It's like, where's my manager and my secretary? They're on holiday. But you know, it's like, that's what I like about your channel, is you as a person, you're giving something back. You're giving the inspiration. And that is so important, you know, these days. I got another question here. I've got millions now. How did you get into music? How did it all start?
Oh man, you know, like the ultra beginning of music for me was probably when I was like 8 or 9 years old, you know, give or take. We had these ancient devices called cassettes. And
I
you
remember
I was
that.
gonna say you might be too young to remember this, dude, but I'm an older guy, you know.
I'm getting up there with you, I think.
So I would wait until the radio would say, okay, we're going to play this song next. And then I would press play and record at the same time. And so I was recording songs off the radio, making my own little mixtapes. And this is back in probably the early mid 80s. And I was recording like pop songs. I was big into 80s pop, like Phil Collins. I even listened to that Tiffany song, I Think We're Alone Now. you
Oh,
know, but
wow.
all these, but Madonna, Phil Collins, the Police, all these great bands, Boston.
Great answer.
And so I was really, music was just a part of my soul, you know, and I didn't even realize it. I just liked it, you know. So fast forward a few years, I was probably about 14 years old, and there is a middle school, and there's this kid on the bus. He had long, kind of long, stringy hair. He had the jean jacket with all the cool patches, Slayer, Megadeth, and all this stuff. And I admired this guy so much. I don't remember his last name. I think his first name was Kevin, and everybody else thought he was a freak. I grew up in kind of a small town, and you know how that small town mentality. If you
Yeah.
don't think and dress and act just like everybody, that you're kind of outcasted, you know. And I just looked over at him. He was just playing air drums, and I heard this clanging coming from his headphones. And I built up enough courage because I was a very timid person. I'm like, dude, could you please tell me what you're listening to? He pulled off one of his headphones, like Metallica. And he with a smile on his face, he was like, I think I just won somebody over to metal music. And he did. And I went out, you know, that weekend or whatever, can't remember when it was exactly. And I bought my first two metal albums. I bought Metallica's Master of Puppets and Injustice for All. And everything changed at that moment, dude. Everything changed. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, but I just knew I was in love with something. I had found like this huge purpose. Back in those days, I was attempting to be a BMX freestyler. I wasn't very good at it, but you know, we would. I grew up kind of out in the country, and while everybody else is out, you know, doing hunting and fishing and that sort of thing, and I was out. I was on the street freestyling and skateboarding and that type of stuff. But we would blast the radio, man, and build these ramps and you know attempt to do tricks that I couldn't do very well, but I tried. And then you know I wanted to play guitar, and I was like, I kind of got this things like the music is great. I love it, but I want more and I want to create this, you know? So, fast forward a few months later, I picked up an acoustic guitar. Music was kind of big in my family. As far as singing goes, you know, singing in the church and stuff like that. My uncle played acoustic guitar and he played an accordion. He had this old acoustic guitar with four rusty strings. I was missing the B and E at the end, and I just started messing around with it. And I picked out Iron Man. So he's like, okay, this could be something. So you know, him and my dad, they bought me a chord book and strings for the guitar, and then a few months later, you know, I wanted to pursue it. And my dad, we were kind of, I don't want to say we were broke. I came from an extreme blue collar family. My parents worked very hard, but as you know, especially back in that time, blue collar work didn't make a lot of money. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like he was a Wall Street banker or anything like that. We lived in a small town. Dad worked in a factory, and you know, we had a home. We always had food on the table. So my parents did an amazing job, but they worked very hard. We didn't have a lot of extra, you know. So my parents really sacrificed to connect with a local musician that my dad grew up with, and got me started on this little Dean Markley amp, which I would put in a dryer and close the door, crank it up and close the door so I could get some kind of distortion out of it.
Oh,
And I had this bright red Gremlin guitar because that's, you know, it's like, oh, it's red, I got to have it, you know. But that's just kind of how it started. You know, I started, ultimately I upgraded guitars pretty quickly after that because I was working as well and doing odd jobs and stuff. And that's pretty much the start though, dude. I was so ingrained in Metallica though, dude. And that band, and I want to say this real quick. I wasn't, this is kind of weird to say because my parents supported my guitar, right? My music, and they knew I was into heavy metal, but it was one of those things where like heavy metal in that area was kind of looked down upon. It, you know, it's like, well, there's the devil music, you know, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't like, I felt like I couldn't really be open about like getting into bands, and I would see people, some you know dudes at school would wear the band shirts, the Megadeth shirts, and Slayer shirts with the pentagrams and skulls and all that, and I'm like, I want to wear that too. But it was kind of like I didn't push the envelope, you know. I didn't, you know, I knew my parents probably wouldn't approve. Uh, so, you know, kind of like I had the metal, but I sort of hid it at the same time, not really hiding it, but just kind of like keeping things on just like a really even killed playing field, you know, between myself and you know, my parents. My parents were great, but I knew that if I started getting too deep in like, well, let me wear shirts with pentagrams and let me have this, it would probably cause issues. So all that said, though, I kind of had this small little box of metal music that I was really into. It was Metallica. Then I got into some of the hair bands even back in those days, because all the hair bands had phenomenal guitar players, and I liked it. But I just started learning stuff, and that's I tried to sum this up as short as I could, but that's the short version of how I got into music, and the rest is kind of history after that.
Like everyone kind of gets into music a different way, whether it's family, friends,
Yeah.
or meet somebody. But that's a great story. Like Metallica, I mean, I love Metallica, and obviously they're
Yeah.
getting a little older now. But yeah, back in the day, Metallica was just, I mean, I went to a couple of their concerts way back when. I can't remember what album, or with Cliff Burton. I think I seen Cliff Burton,
Wow, dude.
and it was just like the energy of the crowd. It was just like on edge. Just like when I went to see Pantera with Dime, it's like there was an energy, and it was like, don't. I mean, I don't know. I wish maybe it's still there in some places, but I don't like that. This was in Vancouver, but I think I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel that energy in certain places. Maybe in Europe, like Sweden, Germany, but I'm not so sure about the UK. The UK is, I don't know, it's gone really weird. But anyways, that's really great, man. Awesome stuff. What about like influences? What kind of music, or what influences you? Like,
So there, like back in the early days, of course, Kirk Hammett, he was my hero, and I to this day I still admire his guitar playing. And the thing I admire about his specific style of playing is, yeah, he can do some of the fancy stuff, but he doesn't do it all the time. He writes the solo to fit the song, and him and Joe Satriani is another one. Their solos tell a story, and this is something that I kind of like preach on my YouTube channel is, don't try to play every note as fast as you possibly can, and don't even worry about like super tight perfection. I mean, it's great. You want to practice so that you have that confidence that you can pull things off and play them as almost perfectly, but it doesn't have to be so pristine that it sounds robotic. And I think that's what I admire about people like Kirk Hammett, which huge influence, and Joe Satriani. They can, both of those guys can play pretty much anything, but they choose to put melodies in their guitar solos. And of course, those are two different guitarists as well. Kirk Hammett's obviously metal, and Satch is more, I guess, of a rock, actually a bluesy rock style. But those are my two biggest guitar influences. And I must say that Slash, from GNR, was he's always been an influence of mine too. The thing about all three of those guitar players is when they play a note within that first, I'd say 2 to 3 notes, exactly who it is.
yeah,
So that's one thing. They have created their signature tone. Now, if we fast forward to today, I listen to a lot of like Amon Amarth, which they don't really play a lot of solos. They do a lot of melody type stuff. And I admire those guys, though. They're just an awesome band, dude. I saw them live a few years ago. Whoa.
I know. I love them too.
Yeah, that was like the best show. I love one of my absolute favorite bands. And again, this isn't like a really guitar solo driven band, but Nightwish. I love Nightwish, dude. I'm like obsessed with Nightwish. They just have this thing. It's like they created their own genre.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Arch Enemy. Both guitar players, they just had Jeff Loomis come on board a few years ago.
Yeah.
But Mike and Jeff both are phenomenal dudes. So bands like that. Another band I'll say that I'm highly influenced by is Tom England's band Evergrey.
Oh, I just been listening to that band lately. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen them years ago, but yeah, they're like progressive kind of metal, right?
It's funny. They kind of started out as like a progressive and kind of almost a gothic style metal. A lot of the songs a lot of the albums over the past few years have been quite different, a bit more melodic, I guess, than some of the early stuff. But I just admire his style. Again, and these are all bands that kind of created their own little subgenre within the metal music industry. You've got a lot of, and I'm not knocking any metal bands when I say this, but you do have a lot of metal out there that kind of sounds the same. And it's like some albums you'll even listen to. It's like, okay, I think I heard track 5, 2 tracks ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a magazine or a factory or a box or something, and it just kind of comes out all the same. But that's just the way it is. But yeah, I totally understand with those bands. I love all those bands.
Yeah, those are all like probably my greater influences over the past few years. And Sonata Arctica, I forgot to mention. There's so many bands I could keep naming. Sonata Arctica is another band I really like a lot. I really like their older stuff they come out with. And I want to mention one more band that I'm super into, especially with their latest album. And it's a band that tours with Nightwish quite often, is Delane. I actually briefly got to meet Timo, their guitar player, such a cool guy. And this last album they put out, Apocalypse and Chill, was just, I'm like, whoa, this, it was like, I don't want to say it was better than the other albums. The other albums are great, but this is much heavier for one. And it's just, I don't know, they did a lot of really cool things musically in the album though. But yeah, and yes, you can see a thread of European influences here, you know, from where I started with a lot of American, you know, influences at first. But I kind of like, my taste kind of leans towards the European style of metal. And I don't want to say one's better than the other. It's just, I guess, you know, it's an issue of preference at the end of the
Yeah.
day, what we like and don't like, you know. You know, for example, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of modern style metal. I know the gent is real popular now, and look, there's a lot of talent that goes into that, and the bands are great. You know, I can't ever take anything away from anyone that plays metal music, but again, it just kind of goes back to a preference of style that you prefer. You know, and I prefer either the older thrash metal and older death metal, and I also like a lot of the European metal that comes out, from the symphonic to, you know, to the melodic death metal that comes out of Europe. So that kind of sums it up in a nutshell where I'm at musically, man. You know,
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a big fan of a lot of those bands,
yeah,
symphonic stuff and Nightwish. Yeah, it's all really cool, man. It's probably why I became a fan of yours or your channel and, you know, of you in general, just because I can hear some of those influences, you know, like when we play, we don't say, oh, I'm going to play like this. It just comes out, doesn't it?
it just comes out, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's wicked. Let me see. So, I mean, tell me about, you know, what's your favorite guitars or what you like to use, and you know, like what do you use to get your sound?
Dude, I'm a big fan of, and I know you're a big fan too, of ESP guitars. I released my first album, Apocalyptic Dreams, in 2013, and I recorded that entire album with the ESP LTD M1000 Deluxe. And when I actually bought that guitar used from a friend, and when I got that, I'm like, oh my God, I am never parting with this guitar. And I still have it here in my studio. I still record with it, you know, and I will never part with that guitar. It's just, you know, it's got the jumbo frets, it's got the EMG pickups, and it's just a beast, dude. It just sounds awesome. It even sounds great playing clean. I don't play that many clean tones, but
Yeah,
it's just if I had one guitar to choose and I had to keep it for the rest of my life and I couldn't have any other guitar, it'd probably be that one. But as you know, like about a year and a half ago, I bought my first 7-string guitar. And I was, you know, the funny thing, and that's the E2, the ESP E2 Horizon FR7. It's the most expensive guitar I've ever bought or owned, you know. But the funny thing is, I was so hesitant to switch over to a 7-string. I was scared. I'd played seven
yeah,
strings before. I remember a couple years ago when I met Chris Broderick. I'm another fan of his too, man. He's an amazing guitarist, and I met him he was doing like a workshop here in Tampa at Replay Guitar Exchange, and of course they were kind of pushing the Jackson brand. And you know, when the event was over, I was looking to, you know, play a 7-string to see how it felt, and I picked up the Jackson 7-string, and I'm thinking, okay, let's play it. It almost felt like I had never picked up a guitar before. My wife was looking over at me. She's like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "This string is in the way. You know, the 7th string keeps getting in the way." So, but you know, I kept that almost kept me from getting a 7-string, but I ultimately ended up getting one and just ended up coming up with some methods, which I've got a really really helpful tutorial on how to transition from 6 to 7-string, just sharing some of the mistakes I made and some things that really helped me. That being said, you know, I recorded my last album, Masterpiece, and released that in 2019 with that 7-string guitar. So I'm really glad I got it. But speaking of guitars and sounds, that's another guitar I absolutely love, you know. So I guess I'm an ESP fanboy. I even have the LTD D5 5-string bass that I record, you
Oh,
know, the bass tracks with. So yeah, I didn't even realize I was a fan of ESPs. I was just like, okay, well, I'll get this guitar. I like it. I've got this. I like it. And it just kind of like after the fact, I'm like looking around. I was like, oh, these are all ESPs. So you
that's
know,
awesome.
it's kind of strange
Myself,
how that happens.
I've been playing ESP for a long time, and that's great, man. They're great guitars. I mean, I just think they're just fantastic. Some guitars might be better than others, and this, that, and
Yeah.
that. But when you find a guitar, like you're saying, that fits your purpose, or just
Yeah.
feel, or you just keep going back to it. And myself, I'm an ESP LTD guy, so yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Um,
they're beautiful guitars.
what about like amps and stuff like that? What, or do you want to tell me how you kind of get your guitar sound, or I mean,
This is a strange thing for me, you know, because the funny thing is I played in bands way back, and like the mid '90s or all through the early '90s to the late '90s, almost right at 2000, which that's when I moved from Pensacola to Tampa. I played in bands pretty actively. I get to Tampa, and I kind of had like, I don't want to say I was away from music completely. I was actually playing in churches all throughout my adulthood up until like 7 years ago, which I know that sounds strange. Like, hey, you're like a melodic death metal head, you know? Um, but I didn't really play out, and I would play some acoustic gigs here and there, but I had kind of lost my way with the dream of being an actual musician. It was just kind of like, sitting in the background somewhere. Um, that being said, I didn't really have an amp other than a practice amp at that time. You know, fast forward to 2008, I met my wife, and we ended up moving together a year later. And that's when I started getting full fledged into music. I'm like, okay, and she inspired me to like, okay, this is my dream. I'm going for it. So I started immediately getting studio gear, and the apartment we had at that time, I made the living room into a small studio and recorded my first album. So all that said, I have mainly played with like hardware. Like I had the old Line 6 HD 500, which is what I recorded Apocalyptic Dreams with. And a lot of people are like, are you sure that's what you used? I'm like, yeah, I mean, you know, I messed around with it until I got a decent tone that I liked, and it actually worked out great. But, you know, fast forward another year or two later, I started getting into the plugins, the virtual amps, and I have primarily used those for every album I put out thereafter. Now, recently, say about 3 or 4 months ago, and I know you can't see it back here, but I bought the EVH 5153
yeah,
with the
I've
head with
seen
the
that in
212.
videos, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually getting ready to record my fifth studio album, and I'm going to use that amp. I'm going to mic the amp the old school way, and I'm gonna mix probably I'm gonna mix virtual amps with that. And what I mean by that is I'm gonna record the rhythm guitar tracks with a live amp, probably most of the leads with a live amp, but there's some songs on this album that have some clean guitars and some ambient guitars with some of that really ambient reverbish effects and some of the breakdowns that I will probably use plugins for, virtual amps for. I've been using Positive Grid's Bias FX2 with the Bias Amp 2, and kind of merging those two together to get the amp and the effects. And actually I've gotten, I mean, that's what I've used for my albums, the past 3 albums, man, you know.
Cool, wicked.
So I know, and a lot of guitar players are like, well, those aren't real amps. But I guess my thing with amp sims is like, you're still playing your instrument. It's not like, you know, drum programming versus real drummer, where you know, with drum programs, you're not playing, you know.
Yeah,
With amp sims, you're still playing the instrument. It's just a different sound that you're getting. So, you know, you still have to have that level of talent or whatever to play that. So but yeah, I love this EVH though, man. And I think the EVH amp with the ESP guitars is like the perfect marriage.
yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
I've heard some of your stuff with that amp. I noticed that, and it sounds great. I mean, all your stuff sounds good, and I think,
Oh, thank you, dude. Thank you.
yeah, it doesn't really matter. I say it myself a lot of times. It doesn't matter what guitar you play as long as you rock. It's the same with the amp, or whether you use an amp simulation or
Yeah.
Kemper. What, as long as you get a good sound or you like it, like as long as you like it, you know, that's really cool, man. Um, uh, what else? So I mean, I don't know, we might have talked about this already, but I mean, tell me a bit more about your channel and your music, you know, a little bit more, you know, if you don't mind, if that's okay.
No, not at all. So like the channel, dude, you know, the funny thing is I started, one thing I want to say real quick about tone, and then I'll go back to this question here. And this is something that a prestigious sound engineer told me a long time ago. We were talking about amps and what you play through and that sort of thing. And he said, Jason, most of your tone is in your hands. It's in the signature way that you play. So I kind of, you know, for the guitar players watching this, I kind of wanted to point that out real quick because I think a lot of times we get obsessed over tone, and I get it. It's a never ending, you know,
Yeah.
you dial in a great tone one day, and then 2 days later you come back to that same tone. You're like, okay, I'm on that search again. You know, it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
things.
what happened? I went to
Yeah.
Motorhead the night before.
Right, right. So I wanted to kind of circle back
Yeah,
to that real quick to just encourage any guitar player watching this right now that, you know, don't obsess so much over gear and what amp and you know this and that and the other. Just focus on your craft. Focus
yeah,
on developing that signature tone, and that just comes through practice. It's like the video I released today, which now we'll kind of get into answering the question you have about my YouTube channel. It's I was going over on how to play cleaner solos because this is something I've struggled with in the past. I'm guilty of trying to play too fast at times, and things don't sound quite as you know as clear as they should. So I was giving out some tips with that. But one of the things that I taught in the video I released actually this morning that went out, you know, how to clean up sloppy guitar solos is you have to have a level of maturity as a guitar player, as a musician, and that level of maturity is really comprised of two different things here. One is comprised of the courage, and that courage only comes from practicing your craft. You know, a lot of people may have courage, we call it liquid courage, you know, when you go to the bar and there's a smaller guy wanting to go pick on the biggest dude, you know, liquid. But I'm talking about true courage comes from actually just practicing and practicing and putting in the time, putting in the daily effort, right, to get better. So that will give you the courage, but you've also got to have a level of compassion, because courage without the compassion is just ego, right? And of course, compassion without the courage is just, well, I'm compassionate, but I really haven't played and I haven't practiced enough to get to that level. But you combine the two, and how I translate this into guitar, of course, the courage is easy. You practice more, right? You put your time in, but the compassion comes into your playing. Having that type of heart, and I don't know if this is going to make sense. I'm trying to explain this the best I can, but
so far so
having that heart
good.
of, yeah, having that heart of compassion and that mind of compassion, uh, meaning you're not beating yourself up when you make a mistake, but also meaning when you play, you're really getting into how people are responding to that. You know, it's kind of like that compassionate heart you're carrying about the people that you're putting music out there towards. Combining those together gives you like this magical sense of playing, and further helps you develop that signature tone. You know, there's guitar players out there, I'd like to think I'm one of them, that you can plug into any amp and you're still going to sound like you. So that's, you know, that's kind of the note on tone. But the YouTube channel, and I kind of probably summed it up right there, but you know, I started just putting stuff out there, you know, doing tones. Well, so the first video, very first video I put out in 2010, I was just sitting on the couch with an acoustic, and it was a song that I wrote, and I just played it, boom, right there. It's very crappy quality. It's not metal. It's just some acoustic. Never released it either. You
Is,
know,
is that one of your first videos or
it's my very first video. If you go back to the very first video, so yeah,
yeah, yeah. So that was 2010, was it?
that was 2010. It's called Never Leave. Yeah, it's the very first video, and it's just me sitting on the couch on the acoustic. I didn't even edit the video because I didn't know how. I had this little, I can't even remember, little flip camera or something. I put it on the TV, like, so, you know, so it would capture me on the couch, and you
Wow.
can even see me going to turn it on and turn it off. So,
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
and then a couple of videos after that, I was just playing on YouTube, just jamming. Here's some riffs, and then I started getting into more like, well, let me teach people how to play these riffs. And then I started getting more into tones, especially with the Line 6 gear. I had the Pod XT Live and HD 500. I've got a lot of videos on that stuff, and so it started getting into more of like how to play different types of rhythms, and then also how to use or how to get different tones from different pieces of gear. You know, I started merging more I started merging more into like almost like a guitar self-help type thing,
Yeah,
and just really trying to find creative ways to help people. Uh, I will say this though, like, of course, there's other guitar players on YouTube that's been around since 2010 or maybe even not as long that have just soared past my channel. And, sometimes you can let that sort of thing get you down. It's like, okay, it took me 10 years to get 10,000 subs,
yeah,
Uh, I say that though, because I want to just throw another little seed of encouragement to people watching is don't let that stuff get you down. Don't compare yourself to other people. Just focus on giving people value, and your time will come, and you could have 1,000 subscribers, but those subscribers may be far more engaged than someone else's million subscriber channel, right? So that it's all about, I think, giving people value, and that's really what I'm trying to do with my channel. Is it's really, I want every video that people watch. Of course, I do some entertaining stuff from time to time too, and not every single video is going to be this mega tutorial, but I do try to give people value. And I'm also trying to integrate more of my own music in that as well. Because I am an independent artist, so that's kind of my way of promoting my music. Because if people don't know about your music, you could be the greatest musician in the world, but if people don't know about it, you know, nobody's going to listen. So you have to get it out. So I'm trying to really do a better job at merging those two together, to get the message out. Hey, I do genuinely want to help people. But also I've got albums out there too. Please go listen, So that's kind of what the channel is about these days.
yeah. I mean, like for me, that I think that's why I love your channel. It's just it's inspiring, and you can learn from it. You can take something away from. I mean, for myself too, is like you say, you wanna get better at what you do, try different things, make music, and I think that's why I like your channel, because I know it's the same word over and over. It's inspiring, and it's inspiration for people. And not everyone does that. We all do our own thing, but I think that's what's so unique about your channel is you watch it and you go, wow, I got something from that. And Jason, like he knows what he's talking about. He's trying to help you, and I think that's really cool. And that's why I wanted to have a chat and help you spread the word about your channel out there. It's awesome. There's a fly flying around that came out of my hair.
I see that, dude. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that, dude.
Yeah,
It's it's one of those things to where, if I read the comments and I see that some of the comments are just almost have me in tears at times, because I'm like, I can walk away at the end of the day knowing that even if the video got 200 views, reading some of the comments, it's like, wow, okay, that really did help someone. I did my job for that day. And I say that about 200 views, like it's not a lot, but hey, if you invited 200 people into your house, you'd be like, wow, that's a lot of people.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
depends on what perspective you're looking at it from.
Exactly. I think YouTube. I mean, I don't know. Probably in the last year myself, my channel has changed because I got a new studio and got
Yeah.
over some issues or whatever. Like say some of my older videos were just really dark and whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's sort of like everyone on YouTube's got their thing that they do. Some are kind of maybe doing more entertainment or
Yeah.
playing, and some are kind of doing teaching. And I I mean, I don't really, I watch films now and again, but I don't watch TV. I watch YouTube because there's
We're
so,
the same, dude. Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing. And you can learn from people and their channels on there. And I think like anything in the world, to me, there's never a wrong in it for anyone to do what they're doing. I mean, I
Right.
see all kinds of people on different levels, and guys can shred, guys can do this, and then there's guys just strumming away, and we're all trying to do the same thing, is to reach
Yeah.
out and share. And I think I mean, I'm a real positive person, and that's another probably reason why what attracted me to your channel and your music, because it's all positive, and that's what we need. So it's like I think that's what it should be about. And anyone that isn't into it or says negative or the thumbs down, I don't understand any of that. But of course, you just ignore it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to ignore it, dude. You have to have thick skin. I don't really get a lot of haters on my channel, but again, I'm not a big channel. If I was a greater channel, because there's a lot of great YouTubers out there. I love Ola England.
Oh yeah.
I hope I'd
Yeah,
love to meet him someday.
really
I
cool.
did. He's great, but I'm sure he gets haters, because he's so big. His channel's so big, so you're gonna get people like that.
Yeah.
My buddy Kevin Frassard, the bodybuilder metal guitarist. I did a collaboration with him about a year ago, and actually I just chatted with him the other night, and his channel's really blown up. And Ola actually sent him one of his solar guitars,
I think I
and his
seen that
channel's
one. Yeah.
yeah,
He's
he's
awesome.
such a nice guy. He's so great. But I know, because he's a bodybuilder and he's a natural bodybuilder, a lot of people don't believe that. They're like, well, you have to do something. And he's not. That's one of the most genuine dudes you'll ever meet.
No,
And people have this thing, though, that where I think the negativity comes from an insecurity, a deep insecurity that people have about themselves. And
yeah.
and I don't want to be mean, because I really want to help those people as well. I want to help them overcome that, because it's only hurting them, but people will call somebody else out, for example, and say, well, you must be this, or they'll just leave a negative comment. And people do that because that makes them feel a little bit better about maybe some of their inadequacies,
It's,
or I don't even say inadequacy. I would say their lack of drive to do something great with their life. It takes effort to do something. Your channel, for example, and what you and I are doing right now, this took some effort. It takes effort to get on camera and play, and like you've been a musician for a long time as well. Those things take effort to get to the level you're at. And a lot of people just don't want to put in the effort, so they would rather tear someone down to make themselves feel better. So yeah, I want to help people overcome those insecurities. Sometimes it seems impossible, but a lot of times, like you said, a lot of times if something really comes across, I can't let that bother me and drag me down. You just have to ignore it and move on.
yeah. I mean, it's like, I try not to get into personal stuff. Yeah, I'm a guitarist. I write, I got 2 Harley-Davidsons or whatever. That's just
Nice,
my
dude.
life, yeah. And that's what I love. It's music and motorcycles. I mean, it's probably maybe a little more music, but I've always got to ride my Harley to get that
That's awesome.
inspiration. And it's like, well, that's what I do. And, I don't go into personal things about, my cat or what I had for supper. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that have gone, musicians, maybe you, maybe me, that have been through a lot of trying times and
Yeah.
difficult things. I'm not going to go into it, but we're doing this and saying, leave that behind. That doesn't matter. That what matters is today being positive, sharing our music and love and passion for guitars, music, whatever. And to me, that's what it's all about. And like you say, people have insecurities and don't understand it, so they try and knock you down. And yeah.
Yeah, that is true. And there's a place for everyone. I truly believe, it's been said, and I forget the entrepreneur who said this, but success is not linear. It's there's and it's not like, certain people are going to have success and that means others won't, because the math equation doesn't work. That's not how it works. I truly believe there's room for everyone to do their own thing. And I believe, and I have one thing that I've struggled with, and most people would not admit this, there were times even on my channel and at different parts of my life where I kind of struggled with being just genuine. You kind of get caught up into this thing, and especially when you start watching other tutorials, it's like, well, to make it on YouTube or to make it in this industry, you have to do these things a certain way. So it's easy to get trapped in that. And just like, I don't know, a few years back, I just said, screw all that. I'm not going to try to trick the algorithms into people watching my channel. I've never done clickbait. I can say I've never put a clickbait thing in the title. That doesn't work anyway, but what you see in the title is what you're going to get. But I think we can let those things overwhelm us to the point that we're trying to conform to a certain way, when a lot of the people teaching that way aren't really sure what the way is to begin with,
Yeah.
But I just put stuff out there. Like, again, my channel is it's going to be about my music, of course, which is one reason why I don't do a lot of covers. I could probably be more popular if I did cover songs. I don't really care to do covers, though. It says I do some, and there's actually some that I may put out here soon, but I don't do a lot of those. And I know a lot of people are searching for specific things, but you have to be genuine. You have to be, if you're genuine, I think there's room for everyone to just be themselves. And it might not be YouTube. YouTube might not be the platform for everyone. I think it's a great platform for most people, but it may be something else. I'm also a writer. I blog. I have a fitness blog. I don't do a whole lot of YouTube for that because that arena is mostly writing for me. So maybe someone watching this is like, YouTube might not be your thing, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be, but there's room for everyone to do something that they're truly passionate about and get them out. And because we have the internet, because we're able to write things and to get videos out there and to publish things, where it could be a book you want to write on Amazon, it could be anything. There's room for everyone to just push their passion and pursue that thing that makes them happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just need to be yourself, and
Yeah.
like you say, I'm a big fan of your channel on that, and like when I do my stuff, it's just like I just kind of do whatever, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm just doing my thing, and
You've got some cool stuff too, man. I love your stuff, dude. You've got some really cool stuff.
thanks, brother. I mean, like I said, I got lots of cool stuff. I mean, I got a backlog of stuff, and it's like, what do I put up? But not all of it's going to be as good as this one or that one.
Right.
And I think you just have to do it, like you say. You become an individual to a degree, but do it for yourself. And like you say, there's room for everyone. And I think I don't want to watch YouTube videos where that guy sounds like the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. It's just like there's no.
Yeah.
I want to see someone that has passion like you. And yeah. What else? I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've asked this question, but what are you trying to achieve, or what's some advice for people that are doing YouTube or musicians in general? I mean, what can you? And I don't know if you said that already, but
No, and I don't know if I'm even qualified to give YouTube advice because again, my channel's not huge or anything, so I might not be the right person to listen to.
advice
you
in general for music, or
Yeah, for music, I mean, honestly, for YouTube, I will say first of all, I think you have to, when you start something, of course, you have to be proactive in starting that. But I think whenever you start something, whether it's YouTube or writing a song or whatever it is, you already have to have some kind of end state in mind. Otherwise, you're just going to be like, chasing the wind sort of thing. You have to start with an end state. It's like, okay, what is my goal with this? And it's something I never really had with my YouTube channel. I didn't really have a goal. I didn't have like a vision board for it or like a mission statement for it. And I don't want to sound like some corporate schmuck, but you kind of had to have. And I just got this from a really powerful book that I just finished yesterday. I was sitting in my pool drinking a beer, reading the last chapter of
life, isn't it?
good times, right? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yeah, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by
Yeah.
Stephen Covey, who sadly passed away in 2012. But very powerful book, and that was one of the things I learned. I learned about a lot of weaknesses that I have that I need to work on, and one of those was when I start something is have an end state in mind. So if you have a YouTube channel or you want to start one, know what your vision and what your goal is. Be flexible because that vision may change, right? So but know what is your goal. Like, is your goal to be a gear review channel? Do you want to be a personality channel? And the thing about my channel, yes, I want to help people, but I have kind of like narrowed my focus down to this channel is about my music, me as a musician, me as an artist, and that's what I want to promote. Now, in promoting that, I will give value by giving people, tutorials and tips and things that I've learned and sharing some of my failures so they don't make the same thing. But my underlying vision for myself is to promote my music first and foremost. So a lot of people will just kind of put stuff out there and like, okay, well, trying to see what sticks, and that will only get you so far. So that's kind of my advice for YouTube is have an end state in mind before you start. Write these things down because that will stick up here and new ideas will form as well. As a musician, you know my goal is really just to make a living doing the things I love to do, which I left my corporate job prematurely. I left my corporate job of 14 years almost in January of this year. And I kind of took a huge chance, and the reason I left was, they were laying off people and I knew that in advance. So when, before that happened, I told my boss, I'm like, hey, when they do layoffs at the end of the year, pick me. And they're like, what? Everybody else is like so afraid of losing their job. I'm like, no, pick me. Cause I've been there so long. So I get a little severance package or whatever. So I'm like, and it's taking a big chance. It's taking quite a toll. But it was like one of those things. I can't do this anymore. I've got to pursue my dream, and I'm going to do it full time. I've got a little buffer here with a small severance, and I bought myself a little time. So here I am chugging away, no pun intended, but just chugging away trying to make it. So that's my personal dream. I think everyone should have that thing that they pursue. I'm not saying everyone should leave their job. That's not, because the caveat to that was my wife and I are very responsible. We don't drive fancy cars. We don't have, credit card debt and all these things that a lot of Americans have. And I don't know how it is in the UK, but a lot of people in the US they just drag themselves down with debt. And it's like, one of my things I give advice, especially for musicians, is, keep yourself out of those things and focus on just the thing that's important. You have to have like that razor sharp focus on your music per se, the thing that's important to you, and don't get caught up into having to have the brand new car and all this other stuff, and junk that people just accumulate, because these things control you. They control your life if you let it. So I guess that's kind of my personal victory that we've had this year, and personal advice I give to others. But yeah, I mean, I really, I want to make music my life. I made some not the greatest decisions as a younger person in my 20s. And, I kind of got caught up in what society, thinks your life should look like here. And it kind of bogged myself down with many things. Now, we were talking about personal things. I don't want to get too personal into that stuff. That you and I can have a side conversation one day about that stuff and share our horror stories, from our past. But long story short, though, and I think a lot of people do this, you get involved with the wrong people. You make decisions that just have repercussions that last for a long time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really until I met my wife now, which this was back in 2008, that we were considered an item, and that's when life really just started going the opposite direction, and I started really chasing everything that I've dreamed of. So on that note, you have to have if you are with someone, you have someone special in your life, you have to make sure that you communicate with that person, respect that person, and before you get into that, if you're not there yet, make sure that you're connecting with the type of person that's going to be on board with you, with your dream. So, and I'm kind of going off on rabbit trails. I'm bad about doing that. Kind of go off on these little tangents, but
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's funny because I think you think a lot like me, and whether I do the things that you do is obviously doesn't really matter, but I definitely share a lot of your thoughts on stuff. And like I say, we're both musicians, probably trying to do similar things, maybe at different ways. But I think, I think it's great what you're doing. Like, say you're teaching people how to play, like riffs and solos. How do you make a old classic metal song or whatever it is? And I think it's really your channel is so it's interesting because you're not selling me anything. Actually you are. You're selling me inspiration, and
yeah,
that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's okay to watch stuff about gear, and I say it's not about what you have. Don't even look at me on the side of the video. It's not about that. That's another story. But it's about, like you said, doing what you want to do, playing guitar, sharing your music. Like, like a lot of the stuff I do. I don't really do covers. I might have done one and a couple riffs here, but I'm mainly doing my own songs and changing them around and turning
That's
them
awesome.
jams or whatever it is. And sometimes they're planned, sometimes they're not. Sometimes I think doing stuff off the cuff is good, but obviously I'm starting to work on more planning stuff. But yeah, like I say, I think your channel is really good, and anyone out there that watches this, you got to check Jason out, man. He's I don't know how to say it, but you're kind of almost like a life coach, if that's not a bad thing to say about you, or a
Yeah,
music coach. I mean,
yeah.
I've taught guitar for years and ain't really doing it lately, but that's kind of great what you're doing, because you're helping people create something or learn something. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, I don't know if I could do it, but so
Oh, I appreciate that, dude. Yeah, I mean, we're fellow metal guitarists, man, and we have a. It's funny because we're like this family. It's like you go somewhere and you see somebody wearing like a Arch Enemy shirt or Testament shirt or something. It's like, that's my brother or my sister. Like you automatically know that, and it's just we have this tight knit family, and I don't know. It's just it's a beautiful thing because we have something a little different than the majority of people. There's something else there, and I don't want to get into we're better and that sort of thing. That's not where I'm going with it, but it's just different. It's like a tribe, and there are different tribes from different walks of life. But the metal, one of the things I love about the metal community is we're probably the most accepting genre of music in terms of accepting people as they are from different backgrounds, from different skin color, from different cultures, ethnicity, and all that. It's like I did a collaboration with a dude with an Arabian friend of mine last year too. His name's the Arabian Panda, really cool guy named Kareem, and it's just so beautiful that you can meet people from all over the world now with the internet and collaborate with them and do things with them, and you have all these things in common that you see even being from a completely different region. So and I know I just went off on another tangent there, but it's just one of those things that kind of comes up from time to time. I'm like, man, it's just an awesome family to be a part of. It's an awesome community to be a part of.
yeah. I mean, it's like you say with the internet, you can reach out, and I don't like talking about the pandemic or the virus.
Yeah, I don't even talk about
Yeah,
it.
but nowadays, doing stuff like this, I'm thinking
Yeah,
I should have done this a while ago, but we get busy with our personal lives, and
yeah, we
we
do.
all have a job or family or whatever we have to do, so we can't always do the things we want to do on the
Yeah,
day we want to do it, or whatnot. But like you say, it's like doing something like this, I think, is great in these difficult times, but we'll get through it. For
yeah,
me and for you, we're making music, and
yes.
that's all that matters, whether it's this or that. We're making music, and I think that's fly really great that that we're doing this and you're doing it. And yeah, I mean,
I mean,
it's
you're in the UK. I'm in Florida, dude. It's like, tells you right there how awesome this thing is.
yeah, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've done this. I might have been interviewed on another channel, but I thought I'd try this, and I might reach out to some other people, and maybe we'll do this again or whatever it is. But I think it's
Absolutely,
really
man.
cool. Like it's just I'm trying to do something a bit different on my channel because I've seen other people do it, and I don't know. You see some of these guys, I won't name them. They've got the gift of the gab, which is good.
Yeah.
Me, I'm just a frazzler.
Dude, this is great though. No, I think what you're doing is awesome. Like I said, man, I love doing stuff like this. I was so happy when you reached out to me. I'm like, hell yeah, man, I'm in. Let's do
Awesome.
this. So no, it's really, really, really cool. And dude, I mean, we will definitely continue our friendship, of course, and bouncing ideas off one another, man. It's just like I said, it's a community, it's a family that we're all a part of here. On that note, no pun intended. But on that note, I don't believe there's competition between us metalheads either. I think, and I guess I feel the need to say that because I know what a lot of people struggle with as musicians and guitar players, especially guitar players starting out. We tend to look at other people maybe on YouTube that's famous or doing these amazing flawless sweep arpeggios up and down the neck, and it's inspiring and it's encouraging to see that. But at the same time, I know sometimes those type of things can get people down. It's like, man, I'm never going to become that. And I guess I just want to tell people watching is like, don't compare yourself to others, and realize that in our community of metalheads, because we are so accepting of everyone, and most every metalhead you meet is willing to reach a hand to you and to help you with things. So I want to tell people to don't let that discourage you, and realize that you're in a good home, you know. This is just like I said, it's a total cool community, and just an awesome family to be a part of, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I say, it's almost like I don't need to say nothing. You know, Jason, I agree with a lot of things you say. I guess, you know, that's why we're here having this chat.
Mhm.
I mean, is there anything else you want to tell me about, you know, coming up on your channel, or about your music, or where can people find you? Like, are you on Instagram and stuff like that, or
I'm
they get you?
I'm all over, dude. Yeah, so I mean, I'm on Instagram. You can find me there just under my name, Jason Stallworth. If you go Instagram and then just look up my name, Jason Stallworth, I'm right there. I also have a pretty big Facebook channel as well. Jason, I think it's under Jason Stallworth Metal. So be sure you to go to that one. I don't really use my private one, so but I have a musician one, Jason Stallworth Metal, for Facebook. Or you can just go to jasonstallworth.com. My website there has links to everything, because my albums are on iTunes and Spotify and all those places, and my homepage, jasonstallworth.com, has where you can listen to my latest album. I even have CDs available, because I did a survey with my fans, and to see who wanted CDs for this latest album, and I had a lot of people wanting that. So I'm like, okay, because I figured, hey, people aren't really buying CDs anymore these days, but you'd be surprised, you get some people that they still want the physical copy. And I guess I'm kind of like that too. I've got some Nightwish CDs and some Megadeth CDs and stuff. It's like, no, I want the CD, But so that's just kind of a side note to you musicians. Hey, survey your fans, and ask them what they want before you put something out there, or to know that, if they're going to buy it or not. But yeah, my website, I keep that updated. You know, keep that updated quite frequently. I blog on there as well, so some of the videos you see that I put on YouTube, sometimes I'll do a written form of that as well, put it out on that site as well. So
Yeah. Just another question. Kind of, you're talking about albums and music and
yeah.
something everywhere. I mean, what's your thought on, you know, a band or an artist? You know, should they sell singles? You know, whether it's metal or whatever. You know, or should they do an EP or a full album, or do a bit of everything? You know, what's your
There's a
thought?
lot of back and forth on that. What I will say is, do what you feel is best for your music. And this is probably going to be bad advice, but I would say, don't worry about following what the trend is. Just do what you feel is best for your music. I still like to hear albums. There's some gurus, a lot of gurus out there in the music industry, and in because today's music industry really isn't about trying to get signed by a label. It's about how to, learn how to do this on your own, which I'm a member. I'm actually an elite student of what's called Savvy Musician Academy, and Leah McHenry, and CJ Ortiz run that, and I'm very close to them and do a lot of work with them. And so I've learned a lot of marketing skills, because as an independent artist, you can't just be a musician. It's like, remember the Wayne's World? They're like, if you book them, they will come. Life doesn't work like that. You have to put yourself out there, because people aren't going to come knocking down your doors like, oh my god, I want to listen to Jason's music. No, you have to build a relationship with people. You have to engage with them. So back to your question, though, it's funny. I did release one Christmas single a couple of years ago, but it was just for that purpose. So I think if you're going to release a single, maybe it's for a very specific purpose or theme or something like that. I prefer albums. I'm working on an album right now. It was going to be instrumental only, but now I'm thinking, man, some of these songs, they need death metal vocals. Yeah, because my last album, Masterpiece, was my first vocal album. I was an instrumentalist only up until that point, and I just discovered my love for doing death metal vocals, and I've got some of that mixed with some thrash metal vocals in there as well. So I'm like, I kind of want to continue that for me. But I prefer albums. I had thought about experimenting in 2021. I thought about experimenting, releasing one single each month, and I'm kind of on the fence about that. Like I said, I need to, first things first, I need to get this album out there, which I plan to release in later 2020, between October, December. But that's going to be a full album, so I guess my recommendation, and this might be wrong advice, is, go for the album, go for it, because even if the trend goes to releasing a single, that trend may only last so long, and one thing I think is people are almost trying to put too much out there. Well, let me, release this, and and the industry's kind of like flooded with new music. So you have to like dig through so much to get to things that you might really like. So, focus on that album, make that your focus, and just make the best album you possibly can. So again, I don't know if that's good advice. That's just what I'm doing. I don't know if that would work for everyone. Uh, it's things like Spotify and iTunes and such, and with our current state of social media, people want things like instantaneously, and then it's gone after that, and then they're on to the next thing. So that's why I think some of the gurus are like, well, you need to release just singles and release them often, and then so like I said, I had this idea of releasing a song every month for 2021. I don't know if that's a good idea for me. The more I think about it, it's like I don't, that was kind of a idea in the back of my head, but then I thought, well, let me step back. What's my end state? What is my purpose for that? Is my purpose just so I can try to get more popular, musically? If that's it, then that's kind of a vanity metric there. So I don't necessarily want to go for that. I just want to create good music. I want to create good music. So for me, it's going to be the albums. That's a very long answer to your question.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree that. I mean, I like having an album,
Yeah.
have some artwork with it and an inlay,
Right.
whatever it
All
is.
the things that come with it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we all, what happened to the days of vinyl, a big album like this. Look at the album cover and this and that. And
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of artwork. I love art, especially heavy metal art. And, I don't care what type of art people put on their album, but it's just cool when you get an album, like you say. I mean, but
Yeah.
on the other end of it is like you say, what's current with the gurus and what's popular, and it's sort of like, but this or that. But I definitely kind of like the idea of albums too. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to go with your gut. Like I said, I like to share my shortcomings with people. So again, so that makes me more human, because I totally am, and it helps other people maybe not make the same decision. And I think your instincts are the best, but I think you also have to have a pure motive behind that instinct as well. You have to have a pure motive. And like I said, that thought I had of releasing a song every month was, if I searched deep inside, the motive was just to, well, let me see if I can just get more headway that way. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily trying to release great music at that point. It's like, well, I need to get ahead and get more popular on Spotify, and like go with the trend. You know what I mean? So, but a lot of the true, big successes in anything comes from someone kind of going against the trend, just doing their own thing and being authentic and being genuine. So, and I know, releasing an album's not a new thing, but I do think it's an organic and genuine thing for people to work on that album, put their heart and soul into that album, into many songs. And like you said, have the artwork behind it. I had an awesome artist. Actually, it's a good friend of mine's girlfriend. Her name is Elizabeth Deduce, and she's out of New York. And she did, if you look at my masterpiece artwork, she did such an amazing job on that. I gave her the idea, and she ran with it. I'm like, wow. So, to your point, like with CDs and stuff like that, you can open them up, and you know how it is, man. You go take a poop, and you've got a CD case in there, looking through the artwork and reading the lyrics and stuff.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
something to that. You know what I mean? So.
You're at a family dinner and it's like, yeah, really, look at this album.
Yeah.
But before we kind of sign off here, I mean, you got any last words, or anything you want to tell the world pipeline, as they call it, the internet?
Well, stay tuned for the next album. I'm working really hard on it. The album name is Overcometh. And you have to have the F on the end of it, so it sounds metal, but it's
Yeah.
kind of the 2020, everything that's been going on is like, that's been my theme in my head, is just overcome every adversity in your life, and and push forward. So again, the album, I'm on the fence. Like, it's recorded practically. My drummer, Cameron Fleury, the drummer that I work with out of Canada, he's recording the drum tracks as we speak. He's actually laying 2 songs this weekend that I just sent him. So I envision that being completed by the end of August, and then I'll jump into re-recording some of the guitar tracks. What I like to do real quick, just a little note on the recording process. I'll lay everything down with plugins, and I'll use a drum program to give the initial idea, but then he will do the drums, but then I'll actually go back and redo the guitar and bass work, because he'll do such awesome stuff on drums. It's like, okay, well, maybe I want to make some changes to kind of cater to his playing a little bit more. So I do that. So it's kind of doubling the workload, but I welcome it. It's fun. So I really hope to have this all put together, really done by the end of September, and I'd like to release it, October, November, something like that. So stay tuned for that. I'll be giving more teasers on that. It was going to be an instrumental album, but I'm thinking some of the songs now are going to have vocals, because they're just too brutal to not have some death metal vocals in it, man. So
Sounds cool. I'm really excited about your new music coming out. I'm definitely, be ordering some. And
yeah,
like I
thank
said,
you for the support, by the way.
obviously I'm busy, but I'm definitely big fan of your channel. And like I say, it's an honor to have you guest and have this chat and,
Yeah.
get inside the mind of Jason.
The demented mind. I really appreciate you having me on, though. Thank you so much, dude. This has been it's so cool to do things like this, just to even sit down and chat, and then kind of let the world hear, what us metalheads are up to. So this is an honor to be on your channel, dude, and it's been an awesome experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming out, and I guess we'll wrap it up with that. And I just want to say thank you so much, Jason, for coming on my channel. And like I say, Jason Stallworth is, I don't know how to say it. He's an awesome musician. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got albums out. I mean, like I say, check out his channel, his website, Instagram, Facebook, and man, he rocks, man. Like I say, I'm a fan. I'm not just some dude that's I'm a fan of his, man. Seriously. Anyway,
thank you, dude.
Thanks so much for coming on, and look forward to your new videos and your albums and all the stuff you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Keep it metal, man.
Okay, rock on.